the radical, fundamental principles of freedom, rational self-interest, and individual rights. This is the Yaron Brook Show.
All right, everybody, welcome to Yaron Brook Show on this Monday, June 23rd. Iran has now responded. World War III, anybody? It's about to happen. It's just give it a little time. I mean, it can't be that Tucker Carlson, Jeffrey Sachs, and all these other, prophets of doom are wrong. That is not possible. They're too smart. It can't happen. All right, so yes, Iran indeed responded. It launched a missile attack on Qatar, on the massive Air Force base that the United States has in Qatar. It was empty. The United States actually, and I think I said this in one of the shows last week, the United States had long ago, a week or two ago, emptied the Air Force, the base. It was too close to Iran, and they emptied it out, moved the planes to Saudi Arabia, moved them to Diego Garcia. The base was basically empty. There was nobody there. There was nothing there. But they launched an attack on Qatar. They also launched attacks on some of the American bases in Iraq. I think mainly using drones. And there were actually air raid sirens going off in Bahrain and in Kuwait. No signs of any missiles targeting those places, but they did have to run into air raid shelters. I have to say, maybe it's just me. I enjoyed that thought that air raid sirens are going off in those countries did not upset me, to say the least. All right, what do we make of this? Well, first of all, this was like a pinprick. Nothing happened. Almost all the missiles were shot down by Patriot and THAAD U.S. air defense systems. Maybe there's some rumors of three that made it to the ground, impacting the desert. I think they had a profound impact on the desert. But other than that, no American injured, no American killed, nothing. They also launched some drones, I think. Those were all shot down. I don't think any drone impacted anything. So we are told, again, fog of war, hard to tell exactly what's going on, but we're told that the Iranians tried to fire the astronomical number of 80 missiles over the last 24 hours. I guess at Israel and the U.S. and everywhere else, 80. Total, over the last 24 hours, they managed to fire 20. The rest were destroyed before Iran could even launch them. This is the Israeli Air Force on patrol in western Iran, identifying launches and knocking them out. So, yes, the mighty Iranians, that force to be feared, that force that would drag us into World War III, got off 20 missiles in the last 24 hours. By the way, the Iranians have declared, officially, they have declared that they pulverized the U.S. Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar. Pulverized it. It doesn't exist anymore. They didn't even, scratch it. But that is the Iranian claim. Now, to give the Iranians credit, they very much acted in the way Israel does. I mean, they basically learned. They took a book out of the Israeli, out of the Israeli book, and they basically they made sure to coordinate the attack fully with the United States of America. I mean, that's the one thing that, the Iranians seem and the Israelis seem to have in common. They both coordinate what they do with the Americans, because the reality is that they basically gave advance notice to both Qatar and the United States that the missiles were going to be launched sometime today. so that to guarantee that there would be no casualties and they won't hit anybody. This all done, of course, in an effort to be able to say to their domestic audience, we launched missiles and we pulverized the Americans, and look like they're powerful and strong and competent and able, and at the same time, expect that the Americans will not respond because nothing really happened. Nobody was hurt. This was a smaller response, and indeed fewer casualties in terms of injured than the ballistic missiles that were fired at al-Assad Air Base in Iraq after Trump ordered the assassination of Soleimani in 2019, 2020. So this was even a less of a response than that. There was at that attack, soldiers were really hurt. They got there was concussions, brain damage. There were real injuries. This time, as far as we know, so far, there's zero, zip, nothing, nada. So there you go. The mighty Iranian Revolutionary Guard, army, military has basically done nothing. And it does appear from all indications are that the United States will not respond. That is, this was one opportunity for the United States to enter the war and maybe go for regime change, maybe just pulverize the Iranian military. But it looks like Trump is going to sit this out, and particularly if this is if this is all Iran has, if this is all Iran willing to do, all indications are that the Trump administration will call it a day. I guess let the Israelis do what the Israelis do, and in the background continue to or try to get some negotiations with the Iranians going. The Iranian foreign minister today is in Moscow. Really, I think groveling before Putin to try to get Putin to intervene. Putin's not going to do anything. Putin has no incentive to come to the help of Iran. He didn't come to the help of Armenia when Azerbaijan invaded, and that would have been an easy one. There's no way he's going to come to the help of the Iranians. Putin is stretched. The economy's stretched. He's fighting a war in Ukraine. He's benefiting right now from oil prices being as high as they are. But other than that, Russia is doing very poorly and very badly. It's also, everybody's seeing, the whole world can see now the fundamental difference between American weapon systems and, Russian weapon systems. His military-industrial complex is not feeling good right now, and they're not getting a lot of foreign orders for their weapon systems. So no incentive to go and help the Iranians. That is where we are. It is. Let's see. What are we doing here? No. Okay, this is out of order. That's fine. That's where we are in terms of the United States and Iran. I expect the United States to sit it out now, unless it turns out that there's still a need to go after the Fordow. There's still a need for more bunker busting bombs. Not Moabs. I've learned that. Mopes. Maybe there's a need for more moping up to do in Fordow or some of the other nuclear sites. I expect the United States to just stay out of this completely. Israel today, very intense bombing in Tehran. Really interesting targets that are clearly aimed by the Israelis, even though they might, deny it, but clearly aimed by the Israelis at regime change in Iran. So here's a list of some of the targets that Israel destroyed today. It didn't destroy in this case. Evin prison wasn't destroyed, but its gates were burst open. That is, a bomb blew up the gate of launched from an airplane, blew up the gate of Evin prison. Now, this is an infamous prison. This is a prison where protesters are imprisoned. This is a prison where political prisoners are imprisoned. This is where they are tortured, raped, and executed. This is one of the most horrific, if not the most horrific, prisons in Iran. It is very much, again, this is what the protesters hate. This is what the Iranian protesters despise. Many of the leaders or many of the people involved are inside. This is a real symbolic, of Israel to blow up that basically gate, basically encouraging the prisoners to escape, basically encouraging the protesters to go out into the street. We'll talk in a minute about why they haven't yet. The protesters to go out into the street, basically saying, we're with the protesters, and this is going after this prison is going after the regime directly. So, this is great. Second, they went after the Basij headquarters. Now, this is a major strike that completely destroyed the building. The Basij is the morality police. This is the headquarters of the Iranian morality police. These are the thugs that got a rise out of beating up young girls, blinding them, arresting them, taking them to Evin prison. These are the people that would inspect how your hair is covered and whether it's okay or not. But more than that, these are the people that were sent out in 2019 when there were massive demonstrations, and in 2009 when there were massive demonstrations in Tehran. These are the people that went out to beat up the demonstrators, to kill them. They killed over 1,000, to maim them, to imprison them, to torture them. Again, this is a massive sign, a massive signal to the Iranian people. Israel is taking out your enemies. Israel is taking out the people who will oppress you. This is your time. Rise up. By the way, the son of the Shah was on TVs today and did a press conference out of Paris today, basically basically presenting that exact statement. Israel also destroyed. I mean, you should have seen the explosions and the fire. The Quds Force compound. This is the regime's terror export factory. These are the people who armed Hamas and Hezbollah. This is the Quds, in a sense, the special forces of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard. Again, these are the people who, armed Hamas and Hezbollah, but also are the people who would turn out against demonstrations, turn out against the Iranian people. These are the people that oppress and suppress the Iranians. They were taken out, the compound was taken out completely. The Thar Allah headquarters. This is the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps unit that murders kids and students in the protests. So these are actually soldiers who go out into the streets and start shooting them. Again, this headquarters was demolished and destroyed. Notice that all of these targets are internally focused on people who oppressed and suppressed and killed and destroyed and primarily killed protesters. Again, sending the Iranians the signal, Israel is with you. We will do what we can. Now it's up to you. Supposedly the clock, you might have heard this on the news, the clock that is a countdown for Israel's destruction, it was bombed. I also saw reports later on that it was still working and it was still up. I think they should keep that up because I think that is a reminder of, Israel's bombing all of Tehran and yet there's a clock about Israel's destruction. Give me a break. Maybe the clock should be switched to a clock that represents the destruction of the mullah regime, of the theocracy in Iran. So maybe they should keep it up to remind people how stupid it is. Every time the Iranian people have tried to oppose this regime, the Basij, the Thar Allah, the IRGC, the Quds would come out and oppress them, suppress them, kill them. And Israel is taking out taking them out. They've already taken us on the police stations. So, let's hope that the Iranians, this emboldens the Iranians ultimately to do this. In today's air strikes, you probably got the largest numbers of actual casualties in terms of people. You're probably looking at hundreds of Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps soldiers, members, as well as the Basij, which are IRCG as well, IRGC as well, killed. By some estimates, 700 to 1,000 soldiers were killed just in these bombings today. By far, the large numbers of casualties that Iran has taken so far. Again, a clear indication about who they're going after. They're not going after regular soldiers. They're not going after the Iranian military, who I think Israel still hopes will ultimately side with the Iranian people and topple this regime. They're going after the Revolutionary Guard, and they're going after its various spin-offs that are used to oppress the Iranian people. So I think this is pretty dramatic and important. So somewhere between 700 to 1,000, at least that's estimates. They were saying bodies were being dragged out of there, constantly. Now, why aren't the Iranian people in the streets yet? What is going on? Why aren't they gone into the streets yet? This is from an Iranian inside Iran. He says, right now in Iran, there is full-scale security crackdown. Armed checkpoints are everywhere. IRGC, Sajiv, and plainclothes forces are stopping cars, searching phones, and intimidating people. On top of that, the regime is taking families of Iranian journalists, I read this elsewhere as well, and activists, hostages, activists from abroad. So they're taking their families that are still in Iran hostage, threatening them to silence opposition voices. Dozens were arrested today. Several were executed this week under false charges of spying for Israel. The regime uses fear and lies to justify killing. Now, this was written yesterday. So the interesting question is this, was Israel's attack today, did they do anything to reduce the threat that the regime poses to its own people? Remember, the Iranian regime is an unbelievably brutal, murderous regime. Murderous and brutal to its own people. They can't kill Israelis. They can't kill Americans, not anymore. So all they've got left is to kill their own people. And they're good at that. They're right there. They're unarmed. They don't have an air force. They don't have missile defense systems. They don't have anything to protect themselves. And the regime is rounding up anybody they suspect that might be involved in the opposition and basically torturing them, killing them, taking their families, making sure to silence them at all costs, because the last thing they want is the Iranian people to actually know the truth of what is going on. Just if we step back a minute here, if we step back a little, just a few things that are worth saying. Iran was presented as this mighty force. Iran was presented as a real threat to the United States and to Israel, and with very little, real prospects of achieving anything. Whether it was Tucker Carlson telling us that, here's what he wrote just 3 weeks ago. Tucker Carlson wrote, Iran has a fearsome arsenal of ballistic missiles, many of which are aimed at U.S. military installations in the Gulf. He predicted the first week of a war with Iran could easily kill thousands of Americans. We heard Jeffrey Sachs, we heard, really everybody on the MAGA right just hyperventilate about the threat that was Iran and how Iran was going to take Israel out and take America out and launch us into World War III, and what a disaster this would be. But evil is impotent. They really are. And Iran is illustrating that, and I've been telling you that for 20-something years. They're not a paper tiger. There's no tiger there. That's an insult to paper tigers. They're barely paper. They're nothing. Zero, zilch. They've got a bunch of, really big bombs that they can launch blindly towards an enemy, towards its civilian population. Because even if they didn't want to hit civilians, they can't avoid it because they can't target these things. They can't control them. They are a pathetic military. And think about it. They have launched 1,000 drones at Israel. How many of them have actually reached the target and actually hit something? One. 1 out of 1,000. Israel and allied forces, including Jordan, have downed 999 drones. Of the 550 missiles that they fired, maybe 30 to 50, probably closer to 30, got through. They've killed 24 civilians. Yeah, they put in hospital several hundred people, which is tragic and horrible, but all right, it's a war. And those numbers are really, really, really low. They haven't managed to kill a single member of the Israeli armed forces. They haven't been able to down a single plane. They've downed maybe 2 or 3 drones, but no planes. And at the same time, Israel has taken out 20, 30, 40 of their top generals, taken out 14 of their top scientists, and slowly has been dismantling their infrastructure. So, this is one of the, I don't think it's the most, this is one of the most one-sided wars in all of human history. And this is Israel. Like, the United States has so many more tools and certainly just sheer numbers so much more. The United States never had to fear Iran. Never had to fear Iran. Not just today, ever. And the pathetic leadership of this country that has allowed Iran to terrorize the Western world for 40 years and just stood by and did nothing out of, fear of destabilization or fear of the mighty Iranian whatever. I don't even know what. I mean, if that's not cowardice and weakness and just being pathetic and not being America first, not being self-interested, not pursuing America's interests. Taking out Iran has been one of the top American foreign policy interests over the last 40 years. I'm glad it's happening finally, but it's mainly happening right now because of Israel. America's kind of piggybacking off of its smaller ally, which is kind of weird, but so be it. Whatever it takes to get rid of Iran and make America and the West safer, I'm all for that. And then the real question is going to be, and I'm asking you guys this, the real question is going to be, what price are Tucker and Jeffrey Sachs and all the other, ignorant, fear-mongering, people out there who have made an unbelievable living off of, just their anti-Americanism and their real ignorance of geopolitics. Jeffrey Sachs, whoa, what a big name. And is anybody going to interview him again? My guess is the answer to that is yes. Is Tucker Carlson going to lose a lot of his subscribers? My guess to that is no. It's the same reason that the environmentalists can predict a disaster decade after decade after decade after decade. And the fact that it never comes true, nobody cares. They still listen to them. They still follow them. It's like Greta is still a celebrity in spite of the fact that everything she says is wrong and nobody cares. It's not about truth. It's not about being right. It's not about being accurate. If it was about being right, I would have millions and millions and millions and millions of followers, of subscribers. And I did get a big boost today, out of nowhere, 75, which is a lot for me. 75 all in one day. You know what it is? I think I'll know more in the next few days as I get actual data breakdown. I think it was the fact that this morning I appeared on Sky News in Australia and to talk about Iran. And right after that, people found me online and subscribed. And I got a huge boost. So welcome to all my new Aussie subscribers. Love Australia. Yeah, if any of you want me to come to Australia and come and give a talk about foreign policy, or about anything you want, happy to do it. But welcome as subscribers. And if you're listening right now and you're not a subscriber, then press that subscription button and you'll be notified every time I go live, and you'll be able to join us. So I know we have a lot of people on Twitter watching right now. Go to YouTube and press subscribe and join the almost 40,000. At this rate, we'll be at 40,000 quite quickly. 40,000 subscribers that follow me on a regular basis. But yeah, I don't think it has anything to do with truth. Nobody follows Tucker for the truth. They follow him to, basically reinforce their own fears and their own biases and their own confusions and their own conspiracy theories. Jeffrey Sachs hasn't been right on pretty much anything. And people follow him not because he's right, not because he's logical, not because he's rational. People follow him because he's fear-mongering, and it supports their desire for fear, to justify the fear that they feel anyway. They need somebody to explain it to them. And the fact that World War III won't happen, the fact that Iran is worse than a paper tiger, weaker than a paper tiger, is sadly not going to change all these people. It's not going to change the support they get. It's not going to change the fact that they have interviews and so on. Oh, by the way, I also did another interview live on a Sacramento, California radio show today. So maybe I got some from that as well. Again, I'll know more when they give me the breakdown of which countries people subscribe to. I think I can get that today. But I also did a lengthy segment on the Sacramento radio show. They interview me quite often, and I think Sky News in Australia indicated that they would like me on again this week. So hopefully, maybe that'll make me a regular commentator. I think I do good TV. I think I do good TV. All right, let's see. What else did I want to say? We've got two more topics here. All right, a couple of funny, weird Donald Trump tweets today, kind of on generally on this topic. This is one very short. Everyone, keep all prices down. I'm watching. You're playing right into the hands of the enemy. Don't do it. We got a president who, I guess we have a lot of presidents in our past who are like this. They don't like supply and demand. They don't like the market setting prices. They want to be able to dictate. They want to be able to go lower. I want it to go lower. I demand it go lower. And who's everyone? I don't have an impact on oil prices. Do you? Who's he talking to? Is he talking to Saudis? Is he talking to the oil and gas guys in the Permian Basin, in West Texas? Who is the everyone to keep? Oil prices are going to do what oil prices do based on supply and demand and based on perceived risk. Now, oil prices did not go up today because the reality is that the perceived risk from Iran is zero. You remember Iran threatened to close the Hormuz Straits? Guess who came out today and said, don't do it? Not the United States, not Israel. No, a country that Iran depends on as a lifeline right now, not Russia. The country that came on to do that was China. China gets most of its oil through the Hormuz Straits. And Iran needs China. So Iran is not going to shut down the Hormuz Straits. That takes away the risk to oil prices. They're not going to attack, oil ships carrying tankers any more than they actually, wanted to attack U.S. military bases. So nothing's going to happen vis-a-vis oil. Israel's not attacking the oil fields in Iran. Israel is not attacking the big island where they hold all the oil and they use it to export. There's basically one location. You would shut down the Iranian economy with just a couple of bombs. Israel is not attacking those, partially not to alienate the Chinese, and also not to alienate Trump. Maybe Trump, when he says keep oil prices down, was actually saying, Israel, don't bomb the oil facilities in Iran. We want oil prices to go down. So nobody wants oil prices to go up except me. I want those oil facilities to be bombed. I think it would help get rid of the Iranian regime. Oil prices are falling right now because of the Iran's pathetic response, and the fact that World War III is not breaking out, and the fact that they couldn't even hit anything. So they didn't close the Straits of Hormuz. I mean, oil prices have been pricing not a worst case scenario, but a bad case all of last week. It actually hit above 80 for a little while and has come down since then. But no, I think nobody seems to want to take out the Iranian oil, and as a consequence, Iran knows that if it takes out Saudi oil, then the U.S., Israel, somebody will take out Iranian oil. So we're not touching oil, and that is helping keep oil prices down and actually moving them down. This one is fun. This is Trump responding to Medvedev. We talked about this yesterday. Medvedev kind of threatening lots of countries want to give Iran nuclear weapons right now, and it was kind of a funny, kind of an ominous tweet if it was real, but of course it's complete, Russian propaganda BS. But anyway, Trump is responding to it today. He says, I did hear former President Medvedev from Russia casually throwing around the N-word, in parentheses, nuclear, and saying that he and other countries would supply nuclear warheads to Iran. Did he really say that? Or is it just a figment of my imagination? If he did say that, and if confirmed, please let me know. Immediately, all caps. The N-word should not be treated so casually. I guess that's why Putin's the boss, all caps. By the way, if anyone thinks our hardware was great over the weekend, far and away the strongest and best equipment we have, 20 years advanced over the pack, is our nuclear submarines. They are the most powerful and lethal weapons ever built, and just launched the 30 Tomahawks. All 30 hit their mark perfectly. So in addition to our great fighter pilots, thank you to the captain and crew. I think somebody told him, Trump, it's really not fair. You thanked the fighter pilots, you praised them, you said all these nice things to them about them yesterday, but what about the submarine guys? 30 Tomahawks, pinpoint accuracy, destroyed, they were shot into Isfahan and I think Natanz, and they were brilliant. Why aren't you praising them? So he had to add that at the end. And of course, using his kind of bizarre sense of humor to suggest that Medvedev should stop talking about nuclear weapons and supplying them to Iran. That will not end well. Yes, there were Tomahawk launches. I think I mentioned that yesterday. 30 Tomahawks from submarines. So the B-2s, we used 12 bombs on Fordo, 2 bombs on Natanz. Those are the MOPs, the bunker-busting MOPs. 12 on Fordo and 2 on Natanz. And then there were 30 Tomahawk missiles. Isfahan and Natanz were the targets, so they kind of finished off those 2 locations. So All right, finally, before we go into other topics, and God, I have a long list of topics today. And no super chat questions. This is not good, guys. You can't just stop doing super chats suddenly. What's up? And 250 people watching. You know, the way to support the show is you ask a question, or you can just make a contribution without asking a question, like Brian has. Thank you, Brian. And a number of other people, Paul and Cook and RDF and William and Robert and Jonathan Honing and Ryan Ward and Hector. Thank you, guys. Thank you all for doing stickers. You can do a sticker. There's a $sign right below there. But you can also ask a question. You know, $20 is great, $50, $100. You can also ask for $2. But yeah, a question about anything. It doesn't have to be about the topic of today, but a question about anything. Anyway, for now a week or so, we have seen all over the West demonstrations. People going out into the street, taking a day off, from their weekend, leaving their kids home or whatever, and going out in the street, not only waving Hamas flags, that's pretty amazing in and of itself, but now waving Iranian flags and wearing T-shirts, I stand with Iran. I stand with Iran with a fist, with the Iranian fist there. With big placards with pictures of Khamenei. Now, let's be clear, looking at the photographs from these, I don't want to be, racist or anything, but they don't look Iranian to me. Most of them look just like normal white people. They're in New York City, they're in the US, they're in big demonstrations in Canada. I told you Canada. I told you the Iranians are coming for Canada. A lot of Canadians went out into the street to celebrate Khamenei. And then in Europe, all over Europe. Now, what is the cause here? Like, I can kind of get, Hamas. Israel's bombing buildings and children are dying and babies are dying. And there's a cause, the Palestinian statehood. The Palestinian nation has been oppressed by the Israelis forever. That's the story they tell us, right? So I get why some people, their altruism is so great, is so dramatic. They have to go and defend the poor Palestinians. And they might be ignorant of the fact that Palestinians throw gays off of buildings, and they often blame that on colonialism, on the Israelis are really at fault, or the fact that Palestinians kill themselves, kill each other, and maim and torture, and of course what they did October 7th and all that. They can ignore all that. But what is it exactly about the Iranian regime that they like, right? These are leftist Americans, Canadians, a lot of Canadians, and Europeans. What is it about Iran that they like? Is it they force all women to cover their hair? Because none of the women in these demonstrations, and by the way, there were a lot of women in these demonstrations, none of them actually have their hair covered. I mean, all these women have, are risking being blinded, literally blinded. This is what the regime in Iran does to women. If the Iranian, Revolutionary Guard catches them. What is the appeal of Iran? What is it about Khamenei that they like? Is it the terrorist attacks, the sponsorship of terrorism? Is it the theocracy? Is it the religion? Again, most of the people in this picture do not look religious one way or the other. Why do they like Khamenei? Why do they like the Iranians? And this is the thing. These are people who claim to really care about the civilian casualties that Israel is inflicting on the Palestinians. But they care zero, nada, about the civilian casualties that Iran inflicts on its own people. They care zero, nada, for the civilian casualties, for example, that Iran inflicted on the Syrian people, where it killed thousands, tens of thousands of Syrian women and children. Many babies. So it's not caring about civilians, it's not caring about babies that motivates these people to go into the street. What is it that unites Hamas and Iran? Why is it that these people are so sympathetic to this cause? I mean, So much so that they're willing to go out into the street, waving flags, pictures of Khamenei with his beard and his whole thing. What do they actually care about? Well, the only explanation has to be that what unifies Iran and Hamas is a hatred of the West. Hatred of the West and what the West represents. The West representing reason, individualism, political liberty. That's what they hate. These are people who despise the West. And this is why, by the way, there are so many people in MAGA who support them, who are also pro-Iran. Tucker Carlson. They hate the West. They hate individualism. They hate political liberty. They hate people being able to express themselves of opinions that they disagree with. They're not going to go move to Iran, but secretly, deep down in their soul, they would love to have a theocrat tell them what to do. They are mindless, and they are filled with fear. Fear of their own life, fear of having to take responsibility for their own life. I mean, these are people defending and celebrating a regime that uses sexual violence and rape to crush the spirit of women. And they will claim that they are feminists. Claim that they are feminists. And yet, they'll carry around a photo, a picture of Ayatollah Khamenei, who blinds girls for showing too much hair. Blinds them. I don't know if you've seen the photos. You should go find them and look at them. Women with completely disfigured half a face because they have been blinded by the Iranian security forces because they showed some hair. This is what's being defended. It's not even some oppressed country, oppressed people. The Iranians are not oppressed. They have their own government, their own regime. Supposedly they had a mighty military. Who's oppressing them exactly? This is about hatred. Hatred of the West and everything it represents. Hatred of America, and more than anything, hatred of Israel. Hatred of Israel, hatred of Israel's success, hatred of Jews, hatred of Jews' success. And it's really hatred of the whole idea of Western civilization. Here's a woman. I don't know who she is. Let me click on it. Maybe it'll tell us. It says she's the host of Bubble Pop with Rachel Gilmore. Your least favorite person's least favorite journalist. I don't know. Rachel Gilmore is her name. This is what she writes, right? Creating a dichotomy. This is in the context of saving of Iran and people calling the Iranians barbarians for raping and blinding young girls. She says, creating a dichotomy of the civilized and the barbaric is an act of racist dehumanization that can be a precursor to genocide and other mass atrocities. Read a fucking book. So what they really, really, really hate is civilization. You can't call any barbaric. Goldie, an Iranian woman writes, "Hi Rachel, Iranian here. I think the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps and their supporters are a bunch of inbred, uncivilized, barbarian savages who belong in the 7th century along with their evil ideology. Does that make me a racist too?" She's Iranian. Good for Goldie. Good for you, Goldie. It's an excellent response and absolutely right. I'm not sure about the inbred, but everything else is absolutely right. If you can't call savagery, if you can't call barbarians, you will lose. You are nothing. You've given up on civilization. If you can't differentiate, if you can't see the difference between civilization and barbarism. Because God forbid, if you declare civilization that's racist and it's a precursor to genocide, then you will lose. You will be conquered by the barbarians. Now, this is the modern woke left. Here's Rachel Gilmore again. Just watch Netanyahu praise the U.S. strikes as a victory for civilization, which is just so fucking racist. My God. And Natasha responds to this, says, Rachel comes out swinging for the IRGC nuclear project. The mullahs blind women with acid and for refusing to cover their hair. Their despotic regime has plunged its own into poverty. Political opponents are imprisoned and tortured. No shit, it's barbaric. You dingbat. I mean, this is the left and the MAGA supporters of the left who hate the West. Primarily oriented towards hate of the West. I mean, the people out there in the streets, it's just unbelievable. You know, the kafirs, what the kafir symbolizes, rape and murder and terrorism. That's what the kafir symbolizes. When I see somebody wearing a kafir, they are supporting rape and murder and terrorism. I don't care who they are. They are the scumbag of the earth. Is that even can you say that? Scumbag of the earth? I just made that up. I don't know if that's a saying. It's despicable and horrible. And I just lost a subscriber. Isn't that fun? I've got a real-time subscriber tracker here. And I can see, I gained 2 subscribers earlier and I lost 1, so I'm still up 1. By the way, if you're not a subscriber of this show and you like what you hear, or at least you find it interesting, or at least maybe you find it stimulating, creating cognitive dissonance maybe, whatever, sign up, press the subscribe button. And by the way, press the like button before you leave. Press the like. You know, it helps with the algorithm. It's really, really good for the algorithm. All right, let's move on to some other stories. I will get to all of your questions. I promise we've made a little bit of progress with regard to questions. We're almost at our first hour goal. We've still got 10 minutes, so we can get there with two $20 questions, and one $20 questions, and a $15 question, and we will be there. $35, guys. We can make it. You can do it. Let's see. NATO. NATO is meeting this week, and I think Trump is going to fly to Europe for this meeting. I think it's in the Netherlands, and in advance of the meeting, I think the European members of NATO have met to discuss their commitment to NATO. Remember that Trump came in his first term and said, "You guys are not paying enough." He was absolutely right. They're not. They should be paying a lot more. You're not devoting enough to NATO, and you know, I don't think really in response to Trump, but response really, if you look at when Europe starts paying more into NATO, it starts in 2014. What happened in 2014? What happened? 2014? One of the good guys, Vladimir Putin, invaded Ukraine and annexed Crimea. And the Europeans went, whoa, maybe this guy's serious. We should start ramping up our military. So that was the beginning, small scale. Anyway, more recently, as we all know, Europeans are committed to raising their contributions to NATO significantly. And now, at a summit in the Netherlands, NATO leaders are going to endorse, this is the plan that's being put in front of the NATO leaders later this week, endorse a goal of spending 5% of GDP on security, 3.5% to be dedicated directly for the military, for defense spending, explicit defense spending. Another 1.5% dedicated to building infrastructure within the countries that will facilitate, for example, the movement of troops, the upgrading roads, bridges, ports, and airfields, so that armies can deploy, and also money will be deployed from this 1.5% for counter cyber activities and any other kind of attacks that might occur. So some of this will be defensive, some of this will be infrastructure. But overall, they are committing to spending 5%, which is a huge number. There are countries out there right now who are spending less than 2%. Spain and Canada. Spain has already said we're not playing. We're not going to be in this, and it's going to be interesting to see how Trump and the other NATO members deal with the Spanish when they get to the summit later this week. Trump has already said no, nobody is opting out except the United States of America. Trump basically says we're not going to spend 5%. We already spend well over 3%. We're not going to spend 5%. We've been spending 3+% for decades. You guys have been free riding off of us. We're going to make this up by you spending more than us. We spending, the Europeans spending more than the United States. So I think this is actually really good. Again, we'll see about Spain. Now, and remember, Spain is almost about as far as you can get in Europe from Russia. One of the reasons they can be a little blasé. I'm not sure what Portugal is spending. Portugal is the only European country further away from Russia than is Spain. So I don't know what Portugal is going to do. But, Spain only spends about 1.28% of GDP on military budget. Spain is also the most anti-Israel of all the countries in NATO, and is constantly trying to get NATO to boycott Israel. Spain did say they would increase their contributions to over 2%, but they will not go to the 3.5% to 5% that is going to require. It'll be interesting coming out of the meeting this week, what they do about Spain, what they do about other countries that might be hesitant. It'll also be interesting to see, over what time frame are these countries going to commit to doing this, right? Let's see, countries that are particularly committed to this, who are ready to spend this kind of money: the Netherlands, Germany, most of Northern Europe, so all the Scandinavian countries, very gung-ho about spending more money now that Norway, Finland and Sweden have joined NATO. NATO is much, much bigger, much more significant, has a real presence on the northern front of Russia. And they are eager to spend the 5%, and they will be spending 5% very soon here. Places like Estonia, Lithuania, Latvia are all spending up to the 5%. So you'll see, and of course Poland, the countries that are going to be most impacted, or potentially could be most impacted by a Russian invasion, are the ones that are most supportive of this proposal. One of the challenges will be Canada. Canada spends a lot less. For Canada to get up to 3.5%, that'll require quite an economic shift for them. It's going to be interesting to see if they can pull that off. But and again, there'll be a lot of pressure on Canada, particularly from Trump, to increase the amount of money. All right, we got 2 new subscribers in the last few minutes, so thank you guys. If you're not a subscriber, please subscribe. Press that subscription button. Don't forget to like the show before you leave. But subscribers, we need to get that number up. We need to go to 40,000, and it's doable. It's doable. Maybe if some of the people came from Twitter over to YouTube and press subscribe, that would get us big numbers. All right, let's see. That was NATO. Oh, this is an interesting story. So, Senator Lee from Utah, together with the other senator for Utah, whose name I don't know, and I can't see it here. Anyway, the 2 senators from Utah are proposing a bill. This is the first time I've agreed with Senator Lee in a long time. I used to be a fan, and then he went all Trump MAGA stupid on me. And this is the first time I've seen a sign of kind of the old Senator Lee, who was pro-free market and pro-cutting the deficit and so on. Thank you for whoever's just subscribed. Really appreciate it, the subscriber who just joined. Anyway, he is proposing to sell more than 2 million acres of federal land. And he's proposing to sell this federal land to either states or to basically private entities. This is a part of the budget proposal. This would raise a lot of money in a time where the government has massive deficits. We're talking about land in 11 western states. Remember that the federal government, just the federal, state, and local governments own 75% of all the land west of the Mississippi. There's massive amounts of land. So he's proposing to sell 2 million. This is something like 0.5% of all the federally owned land, in the United States. This is a way to raise revenue. It would affect 11 western states from Alaska to New Mexico. The one western state that would not be eligible is Montana, which has been carved out because Montana freaked out when they heard the federal government might sell some land in Montana. That's a big no-no, even though note that Montana is a big time Republican state. They won't sell federal land. A spokesman from Montana Senator Steve Daines, who's a Republican, said he is against the sale of public lands, but glad to see Montana exempted. God. Anyway, this proposal hit a few days ago, and the internet went crazy. And part of the fun part of this is you'd expect certain people to go crazy, right? You'd expect, like, the environmentalists to go crazy. You'd expect the left to go crazy. But the environmentalists, more than anyone, they would go nuts. But what was shocking, at least I was surprised. I have to say, I was surprised. Thank you, by the way, to the 2 additional people who just subscribed. Really appreciate your subscription. Thank you, and I hope you enjoy the show as the shows that you're subscribing to as we move here into the future. What was shocking was how many people on the right objected to this. How can you sell American land? You can't sell a state, the federal government. This is our treasure. This is our children's inheritance. Not Silicon Valley is our children's inheritance. Not private enterprise. Not the capitalist system. No, the land, the soil. How can we separate the soil from the state? It was even I was surprised. Even I didn't expect it. And here, as always, as I've told you many times, the combination of the far left and the far right coming together over land, of all things, is quite stunning. I mean, I can see that coalition. I can see the far left, far right coalition coming together over Russia, over Iran, over land, over generally anti-capitalism. There is a real program here. I should run as the future dictator, right? Now, most of the public lands most public lands are in the western states. In some places like Utah and Nevada, the government controls the vast majority of land, protecting them from, of course, exploitation by those evil capitalists and growth. But by doing that, what happens? They hinder growth. Lease proposal does not specify that properties would be sold. It directs the Secretaries of the Interior and Agriculture to sell or transfer at least 0.5% and up to 0.75% of U.S. Forest Service and Bureau of Land Management holdings. That equals to at least 2.1 million acres and up to 3.2 million acres. The Republican said, I'm reading from a story on AP News. The Republican said in a video released by his office that the sales would not include national parks, national monuments, or wilderness. So it's not going to include, the wilderness and the national monuments and national parks, the things that you so cherish that have to stay in government hands because, what will happen then? They'll build condominiums in the Grand Canyon. The most evil thing possible, right? They would instead target isolated parcels that could be used for housing or infrastructure. This is Lee. Lee continues, quote, Washington has proved time and again it can't manage this land. This bill puts it in better hands. Now, I, for one, am a radical, a real radical. I want 100% of federally owned land sold, not given away, not given to the states, sold to private people, including, by the way, conservation groups who could buy big tracts of land and keep them forever for the spotted owls and for some of you who like to hike and go and spend time in the wilderness. I'm fine with that. Sell it all. Lee is way, 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 way too moderate. Here is what Mike Cernovich, you know Mike Cernovich, the MAGA influencer on X, kind of a little bit, somewhat of a, big MAGA influencer. He says, quote, selling off our federal land should be a no-go. We haven't even done mass deportations. Men better than any of us died exploring these areas. They are the birthright of Americans. Selling them off for a bowl of stew would be heresy. These are the blood and soil MAGA people. Blood and soil. America is not about an idea. It's not the land of freedom. It's not the land founded by the founding fathers. It's not a Constitution, Declaration of Independence. America is about the land, the sacredness of the land. Men better than any of us died exploring these areas. Yes, they did. They didn't die exploring these areas for you, for the state. These were men who believed in progress. These are men who explored those areas to discover new paths for immigrants to travel over, discover new places to settle. Conservative author and veteran Baxter McCoy says, if you're in Utah, calling Mike Lee's office isn't going to do anything. He has been focused on selling this land off since he got elected. He already knows you don't want it sold. That's why he pitched his lawsuit on the lie that it was only about transferring it to the state because local management is better. Call all the other offices, though. They may be more receptive. I also saw Mike Solana from Silicon Valley talk about the birthright of his children, selling off the birthright of his children. Freedom is not the birthright of his children. Capitalism is not the birthright of his children. Liberty is not the birthright of his children. No, those are just ideas. The land, the physical land. And it's his birthright of his children as federal land rather than as, land in the hands of developers who actually will do something productive with it. Land in the hands of ranchers who will actually graze their cattle on it, which they do now, but they have to lease it from the government. All kinds of weirdness happens around that. Land that would be sold off to, farmers, ranchers, developers, who knows? And conservation groups who would conserve it. No, that's not acceptable. This is the exact opposite of Ayn Rand. Ayn Rand's definition of capitalism is the socioeconomic political system in which the government protects our individual rights, in particular property rights, in which all property is owned by private people. No property is owned by the government. These people want to protect every last little corner of this government ownership, the statists, the worst kind of statists. Now, I get the left doing this, right? Benji Baker, founder of the nonprofit Nature is Nonpartisan, wrote, President Trump made a promise to revive this legacy, and he kept that promise during his first term with the Great American Outdoors Act. I don't even remember that one. But now, this selling off of public land would undo those years of hard work and progress. The Teddy Roosevelt Conservation Partnership wrote, the Senate proposal sets an arbitrary acreage target and calls for disposal of up to 6 times more land than was proposed in early versions of the House Budget Reconciliation Bill. If passed, sportsmen and women would lose access to large tracts of public land. Sportsmen and women. Oh, sportsmen and sportswomen, I guess. I guess that's what you mean. God. Again, we're talking about 0.5 to 0.7% of land holdings 0.5 to 0.7%. This is tragic. This is going to decimate America. This is taking away your children's. All right. This is just a warning for you guys, particularly if you live in New York. I don't know what is going on. But this, socialist, Hamas sympathizing, global intifada advocate is actually now leading the polls for New York City mayor in the poly market where people put money on who they think will win. Zohan Mamdani currently has 61%, with Andrew Cuomo coming in at 38. I mean, I cannot express to you how evil this would be, how horrible this would be for the city of New York. This would make the election of de Blasio look like he just elected a laissez-faire, loving mayor of New York. This guy wants government-run grocery shops. And again, he defended his usage of global intifada. Has been condemned by even the New York Times. The New York Times, I think he spiked in popularity after the New York Times went after him. So, guys, if you're in New York, you got to do something. Call your friends. Do something. You got to, first of all, get out the vote. Go and vote. I don't care who you vote for. I mean, you got to vote for Cuomo just to prevent this guy from coming in. This would be appropriate. Anti-Cuomo, anti-Cuomo for Cuomo. Cuomo's terrible. He's awful. He's horrible. But anything to prevent the Zohan Mamdani guy coming in. I mean, he's a Muslim sympathizer of Hamas. Is going to be mayor of the greatest city in the world. He is a socialist who's going to be a mayor of a city that, more than any other city in the world, represents capitalism. Maybe Hong Kong used to represent it more so. I can't think of anything more horrible than this. I mean, I guess if New Yorkers vote this guy in, they deserve it. But the minority that don't vote for him don't deserve it. So, I don't get it. Who are these people? Are there that many socialists? Does the Upper East Side and Upper West Side dominate New York? Or is this I don't know. I just don't get it. Make it not happen, guys. Here's a political cause to get around. Stop this guy. I mean, he's a former rapper, an explicit socialist, and he's polling at 52 to 48 right now. And again, the poly market, which is usually more accurate than polling, has him winning. That's the state of the world. Okay, some good news. Well, good news and bad news. Anyway, good news. Tesla is launching as we speak. I think yesterday. Launched its robo-taxi service in Austin. And launching it at a flat fee of $4.20. She can go from anywhere to anywhere for $4.20. Now, I don't know if the robo-taxi drives on the highway. Waymo does not go on the highway. I don't know if the Teslas go on the highway. Let me know. But it's great news for you guys in Austin. Use it, promote it. Hopefully they'll be launching in other cities soon. By the way, in Arizona, I got a ride in a Waymo. First time riding in a Waymo outside of San Francisco. I love it. I think it's the coolest thing. I feel super safe. I love seeing that steering wheel turn without a person turning it. I think that's a cool feature to have the steering wheel there, even though obviously they don't need to have the steering wheel there. But it's just cool to watch. I'm sure future cars won't have it. But please use the service. Go for it. Oh, I just lost somebody on the subscriber list. Somebody's unsubscribed. You see, it's constantly, it's a dynamic motion. What did I say that caused them to unsubscribe? Who knows? It might have been another video that they watched. It might not even have been somebody live. But if you are watching live and you haven't subscribed yet to the Yaron Brook Show, please go and subscribe. Please go and subscribe. Anyway, this is big. It's very big for Tesla, which is kind of basing its future on this. Making electric cars is they're not going to be able to survive, I think, as a car company, just by making electric cars. They're going to have added value, and the added value seems to be this. Not only, somebody did subscribe. Thank you. There we go. We jumped back. So not only does this provide them an extra source of revenue, but now Tesla, if you buy a Tesla, and let's say you go away for a week, you can actually, in the future, you'll be able to set that Tesla up to do rideshare, and you'll get some revenue from it. So that makes your Tesla an income producer when you're not using it. You don't have to devote any time for it, and it'll produce revenue for you. That is pretty cool. That's about as cool as it gets. Anyway, this is exciting. I love technology. The flat fee obviously can't survive, but it's a great opportunity right now to go test them out in Austin. You're going to pay very little, and you're going to get a great ride. I am curious about. I'll have to research whether they can drive on the highways. The Waymo cannot. And it's difficult for them in Arizona, for example, to get to the airport, because it's difficult to get to the airport without going on the highway. The same is true in Austin. So limited use so far. Ultimately, they will be allowed to drive on the highways. Ultimately, we'll all be riding in driverless cars. It's going to happen. You will have a hobby car that you can go out when you want to drive, but mostly you'll just be ordering driverless cars to take you around. You won't even own a car. There's no reason to own a car in the not so distant future. Let's wish Tesla luck and hope they succeed. All right, finally, one of the great businessmen and business leaders of the 20th century, American 20th century, died over the weekend. Fred Smith, who in 1965 wrote an economics paper that basically spelled out an idea for a nationwide overnight delivery system using airplanes. By the way, his professor gave him a C on that. Passed away at the age of 80. At the age of 80 over the weekend. Smith basically revolutionized delivery in the United States. He left Yale. He graduated from Yale. Served in a Marine in Vietnam. Went to Little Rock, Arkansas, and launched a business at the age of 26, with a handful of small planes. In those days, if you wanted to do delivery service, by regulation, by government control, you could only use small planes. You were not allowed to use larger planes. Simple concept. People would pay up when it absolutely, positively had to be there overnight, which became kind of the marketing slogan for FedEx as they grew. 2 years later, FedEx moved to Memphis, where they're still based. They pioneered kind of the hub and spoke system for delivering packages. It took a while for FedEx to be successful. They were hampered by regulations throughout most of their early years, particularly the restriction on small planes and the use of small planes. But of course, delivering packages was the thing the post office made money off of. And one of the things Smith did was he spent real time lobbying Congress to deregulate. This is during the 1970s when there was a push for deregulation. This is under Jimmy Carter. An underappreciated side of Jimmy Carter's presidency was the extent to which deregulation happened. And indeed, in 1977, when airlines were deregulated, so was FedEx in a sense. They were now allowed to use large planes, allowed to do delivery of packages and next day mail. And of course, from starting in, they started in 73, he had basically raised money from venture capitalists and friends and family. He raised $80 million, one of the largest venture capital raises of the time, and yet struggled through the 70s to make money. And it's only after the deregulation of 1977 that they really took off. again, creating the hub and spoke, with the hub being Memphis. To this day, FedEx is a dominant player in the space. It's a space, of course, then UPS came into, DHS, foreign companies, and created a lot of competition. And of course, now Amazon. But he is one of the pioneers of delivery, and really a phenomenal businessman, a phenomenal success story, an inspiring leader. If you ever heard him speak, when he was asked about his legacy, Smith said, quote, "I don't think that way. I just enjoy what I'm doing. I'm very focused on the here and now. The legacy will be the success of the company, and I hope the success of my children, of which I have a lot of." I don't know how many children he has, that he said he has a lot of them, but he retired from being kind of chairman, executive chair he retired from being CEO actually in 2022, so not that long ago. His successor, Raj, family name cannot be pronounced, obviously an Indian name, is now the company's CEO. He retired at the 50th anniversary of the founding